Hi, welcome. In today's video, and the first video on the channel, we're going to be talking about the Porsche 911 Carrera S 997. So the one we have here is a 3.8 flat 6. It makes about 260 kilowatts, about 350 horsepower, and about 400 newton meters of torque. This is a manual as well, and I've been given the keys to it for 3 days. So I thought it might be good to do a practical test on it, to see what it's like to live with every day, to see what it's like to drive, and to go through some of the quirks and features. Okay, you join me in the car. We're going to have a quick look at what is inside. There are your 3 dials. I quite like the fact that you've got your rev counter in the middle. You've got your speedo there, you've got some oil temperature, engine temperature, all the usual stuff. You've got quite a nice simple steering wheel, very sturdy. The car doesn't have too many Ks on it, so hasn't been used too much either, but you can really feel the quality and it feels like it's going to go a long way before needing any kind of refurbishment. Got your infotainment there. I'm not going to turn it on now, it's quite dated. There's not much to look at there either. You've got the manual, which is silky smooth. And this is the rest of the cockpit. There's leather everywhere. I mean, obviously the seats and the doors over here. You've got nice soft carpeting there. You've got the speakers over here. Leather again. You've got cup holders in there. That's too cool. That's sort of over-engineered in a way. But I like the fact that they agonize over every small detail in these cars. Okay, now moving up, we've got a flip down visor. We've got the vanity mirror that's lit up as well, which is quite nice. Not all manufacturers put a mirror on the driver's side, but I guess Porsche do. You've got a very nice, soft, sort of expensive feeling roof liner, which I tend to like in cars. It's not a place you touch quite often, but it does give it a nice premium feel. Not much in the name of back seats. You don't have, excuse the cap, you don't have a lot of leg room there. I'm sure you could fit a toddler in there, or your sort of lapdog, whatever. You've got a nice sort of racy looking red seat belt over there. And then something I quite enjoy is the fact that you've got these 2 window switches next to each other, meaning if you want to open both at the same time, you knock both of them down. You want to open them, it's quite convenient. I quite like that sort of in terms of ergonomics. And let's talk about 3 things I really love about this car. Number 1 is this compartment over here in the door. You wouldn't say there's a compartment because there's no conventional sort of button or grab handle for you to open it with, but it's just lifted up and you've got a nice sort of soft interior there to put your phone, to put your wallet, whatever it is you might. Here's another thing I really like. The manual gearbox in this car is just sublime. I feel like if you're going to buy this Porsche, get the manual. And the shifter itself is designed really well. It feels really premium. Ergonomically, I mean, it fits in the palm of your hand just nicely. And it really wants to be shifted. Very cool. And then the third thing I like is these slats here in the back of the engine. I know they're functional, but I like to think that they designed them to sort of go with the design and add some dimension to an otherwise flat back. And here's 3 things I don't like. I could never fit in the back of this car. Nothing could. Why put cushions here? Why put this backrest and this? Why? And secondly, I'm not really mad about these wheels. Maybe it's a subjective thing, maybe it's a taste thing. Some people tend to like them. I'm not mad about them. I probably would have gone for something more like a multi-spoke. I don't know, something a bit cleaner. And the third thing I don't like about it is the fact that I can't afford it. But that's my fault because I became a teacher. But I'm going to put some offers in South Africa down below for you to have a look at, because maybe you can afford it and maybe you're looking at one, especially after watching this video. Okay, let's go for a first drive in the 911 Carrera S. So first impressions, very easy to drive. I think it's a known thing about Porsches that they're a very livable car. Ergonomically, for starters, I am extremely comfortable in here. I am quite a tall guy at about 6'4", and I've got ample headroom. I'm a good distance away from the steering wheel. One thing I will say is that I wish the steering wheel had a bit more rake to it. Those of you that do quite spirited driving or that do maybe long trips, you tend to fatigue very quickly if you fully extended the whole time. I'd like a bit of rake so I can have it right here in front of me and feel really in control. The manual is an absolute dream. I think if you get a 911 Carrera S, get a manual. Do yourself a favor. PDK is a notoriously good gearbox, but lots of people will only drive this car on special occasions or on the weekend. Get a manual. It's so satisfying and rewarding when you eventually stretch the legs out properly and you get to be really selective with your gears. You've got a very linear power band, so you'll get it right 9 out of 10 times. And I think, get this, the clutch is fairly easy as well. You can compare it to I wouldn't say Golf, it's not that light. There's a serious quality feel to the clutch. It lets you know exactly where it's going to take, and it's got quite a bit of travel. I was quite surprised to feel that, but it's dead easy. We're just going through a suburban area now. I'm not really going to push the car at all. First of all, it's not my car. Second of all, I want to obey the laws of the road sort of a little bit, and I think a practical review is a lot more valuable here. Very few people will end up taking their Porsche on a track, for instance. I think it'll only ever go as far as a nice canyon drive or a nice road trip with some bendy bits where you can really just punt it. So interestingly enough, I've had the car for a day now, and I didn't end up filming that much because I was actually too busy driving and too busy having fun. It felt like every time I was going to turn the camera on, I was sort of going to spoil my time with the car. But I've taken the time to at least reflect on what I've experienced. And yesterday morning, my wife and I went for a sort of brunch about 1 or 2 towns down, and I sort of wanted to get her impression because I tend to like to see what non-car people experience in the car, because they're very unbiased. They don't necessarily agonize about the small things. They can give you sort of a very raw impression of the car. And what she told me actually is that the car is comfortable. It's not particularly harsh. It depends on what tires you're going to put on. This one is on Advans, and I think they're fine. The suspension isn't too bad. I mean, the car is quite light, and the fact that you have a light car means you don't really have to run such a harsh suspension setup, so it's quite comfortable. The little bumps it soaks up, it tends to handle the bigger bumps quite well. You do tend to float quite nicely over them, which is one reason why I think this car would make a great tourer. And then another thing that my wife noted was the fact that it doesn't seem too impractical to her, which is a good thing. If you have a car like this and you're married, or you spend a lot of time with someone else, or you have a kid or two that you tend to take on drives, you've got more than enough space in the front for luggage. The back seats are useless, but don't put people there. Put something else there. One thing that you can expect when driving a Porsche is the fact that people are going to look. People are going to look. It's got a very recognizable shape. It is nice and low slung, and it's got very nice curves, very sensual curves almost, if you will. But she doesn't like the attention. When you stop at an intersection, someone's going to look at you. And on another note, we drove past a family that was going for a walk, and the little boy's mouth, his jaw just dropped. He was in complete awe of the car. And for me, that's special. Because I remember being a kid, you see a Porsche or you see a nice car, a sports car, and it just makes your day. So for her, that was a negative. For me, it's sort of a positive, not the attention necessarily, but just knowing that someone's going to appreciate it if they know what they're looking at, or if it just compels them. Okay, I'm going to try and stretch her legs a little bit. Please excuse the extra noise. I haven't quite figured out my microphone setup. Funny, you tend to get not too much down below in the lower half of the rev range, but once you really stretch her out, she just sort of leaps, and I feel like that will come in very handy if you're doing any kind of sort of track driving. You just keep it in the mid-range and you just punt it whenever you need it, especially out the corners. I haven't filmed it now, but when I did get an opportunity to give it the beans a little bit, you notice how hard it is to sort of get her I don't want to say, just to get her uncomposed. It's very hard. You really have to push. You really sort of have to try and drive like a hooligan. I actually kept on talking and recording straight after this bit, but as I put the video together, I realized I was just babbling on about insignificant nonsense when all I really wanted to do was drive. Once I detached the camera from the windshield, a good friend of mine joined me for a drive and took some great rolling shots. The next day I parked off in a mall parking lot for some more photographs, but you'll have to head over to the Shift RSA on Instagram for that. A simple way to summarize this review would be to say that the 911 was everything it was supposed to be. Fast, beautiful, classic, and unspoiled by any unnecessary showmanship. It gets on with the job of driving without being overly flashy or brash. It's great value for money and still feels young for its age.